Merrick Garland and the DOJ have a lot of explaining to do. The IRS whistleblowers, plural, are continually dropping new evidence that there was a major cover-up, that Hunter Biden got major favors that prevented him from facing more serious charges. And we've got new evidence from Gary Shapley in particular. Gary Shapley was whistleblower number one. There were two now. The other is Mr. X. Both of them approached Congress as protected whistleblowers. Both of them were retaliated against by the Biden administration, reassigned from their IRS teams, which were actively investigating Hunter. And so there were some questions about these whistleblowers. Are these trustworthy people? Can we find them credible and reliable? Or are they just MAGA anti-Trumpers like the rest of them, and we can just throw them in the trash with all of the other problems for the Democrats? Every time they come out and give us new information, it seems to be corroborated. Now we know that the battle over whether David Weiss had authority to charge Hunter Biden in other locations is being clarified. Merrick Garland said that David Weiss could do whatever he wants. He could go to DC and charge Hunter there. He could go to California and charge Hunter there, that he was almost like a special prosecutor. Turns out that's not true. And we've got email evidence to prove it. So here is what Gary Shapley said when he was on with this terrible journalist on CBS who produces the absolute worst segments in the media. Tons of jump cuts, doesn't actually let the witness speak, but it's all we've got. For some reason, Gary Shapley and his attorneys keep going back to them. But here is the update from CBS.
If this was any other person, they likely would have already served their sentence.
Gary Shapley was a lead IRS supervisory agent in Operation Sportsman, the investigation into Hunter Biden. Shapley said he uncovered conduct that warranted more serious charges.
There were personal expenses that were taken as business expenses. Prostitutes. Sex club memberships, hotel rooms for purported drug dealers.
How much did Hunter Biden owe in taxes?
So from 2014 to 2019, it was $2.2 million.
The back taxes were paid off, and last week, the Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney in Delaware, David Weiss, reached an agreement with Hunter Biden. The president's son would admit to a firearm charge and plead guilty for his failure to pay taxes. If a judge signs off, the deal means no jail time.
Testimony we have just released details a lack of U.S. Attorney independence.
And Shapley told lawmakers that U.S. Attorney Weiss was blocked from bringing stronger charges. But U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said last week that Weiss was not.
I'm saying he was given complete authority to make all decisions on his own.
I documented exactly what happened, and it doesn't seem to match what the Attorney General or the U.S. Attorney are saying today.
Yeah. Shapley provided lawmakers this contemporaneous email he wrote after an October meeting last year. Shapley says Weiss told him the opposite, that Weiss is not the deciding person.
We're going to come back and take a look at that document in particular. Weiss stated that he is not the deciding person on whether charges are filed.
On whether charges are filed.
It was just shocking to me.
Shapley, who is still working for the IRS, told us that even before President Biden took office, he was directed to avoid leads involving Hunter's father.
There were certain investigative steps that we weren't allowed to take that could have led us to President Biden.
And you wanted to take them?
We needed to take them.
And you weren't allowed to take them?
That's correct.
All right, so that guy is done. So every time, they do this interviews, I just want to hear from Shapley. We just want to hear from him. We don't need your voiceover on all of the conversations. And as these media companies continue to become less relevant, hopefully we get more whistleblowers who are going to better sources and we hear from them directly. But the point is, we do get some new information out of this. There is a story that this was an email that Shapley sent over to somebody called Michael Batdorf, copied to Daryl Walden. Sportsman meeting update. And so this looks like it's just an email that is contemporaneous notes. As soon as you have a big meeting, sometimes you'll jot notes down, especially if you're an attorney or an investigator. You want to mark your file up. This is what we did. This is how much time we spent on it. This is the plan. You assign different tasks. Okay, I've got 5 tasks. I need to go give these things to other people. Everything is part of the plan, and you'll articulate it and send it out to everybody else. So here's the actual email. It says, Mike, Daryl asked me to shoot an update from today's meetings. This is Gary Shapley, the guy we just heard from speaking. Daryl, feel free to comment if I missed something, so correct it or change it. Discussion about the agent leak. Requested the sphere stay as small as possible. Somebody leaked something. The DOJ Inspector General will be notified. FBI HQ will be notified, and they refer it to their counterintelligence squad for investigation. IRS criminal investigations. We need to make a referral to TIGTA. What do you need from me on this action item? He said, point 2, underlined in bullets and bolded, says Weiss stated he is not the deciding person on whether charges are filed. Happened around October 7, 2022. Shapley says, I believe this is a huge problem, inconsistent with DOJ's public position and with Merrick Garland's testimony. Here's the process for the decision. We need a DOJ tax approval first. Stated the DOJ tax will give discretion. No venue in Delaware has been known since at least June. Went to the U.S. Attorney's office in D.C. in early summer to request a charge there. Biden appointed U.S. Attorney said they could not charge in his district. Bullet point 2B3. Shapley says, I went to the U.S. Attorney in early summer to request a charge in D.C. Washington. Biden appointed U.S. Attorney said that they could not charge in his district. Same story when he went over to California. Another Biden U.S. Attorney said no. Weiss requested special counsel authority when it was sent to D.C., and Maine DOJ denied his request and told him follow the process. So Shapley, before he was even going to come out as a whistleblower, sent this literally contemporaneously back to the people who were also at the meeting and said, if you need any corrections on this, make some corrections. Let me know if I missed something. Nobody made any comments because it's all true. The DOJ was hamstringing this from the very beginning. And there was more evidence that even other people in the room were there. Other names. We saw that Shapley and his lawyers, Jason Foster and Tristan Levitt, shout out to those guys, and Mark Little from Nixon Peabody, they said those 6 witnesses who were also in the room who can corroborate this, that David Weiss said he did not have authority to charge other people. 6 people were in there. Baltimore FBI Special Agent Tom S., Raisha H., IRS Special Agent Gary Shapley was there. Daryl Walden was there. Sobosinski was there. A lot of people were in the room. They all heard it. The DOJ was covering this thing up for a long time. And now we have a third confirmation. Can you believe this? The New York Times is even agreeing that Merrick Garland and the others may have been dishonest with us. Now, this story is the detail that I want to share with you is buried all the way at the bottom of this story. But here they tell us, listen to how they frame this article. Competing accounts of Justice Department's handling of Hunter's case. Here's Hunter at a State Department dinner. He's hanging out with prime ministers from India, man. Hanging out. He's committed more crimes than most people that are in custody in America right now. I can say that with a certainty. I could say that based on Hunter Biden's laptop, a lot of people are in prison for 1 offense or 2 offenses or a 3rd offense. Hunter has got like 7 of them that you can chronicle just from the laptop report right on the table of contents. So if you were to put this in a chart and say, what level of criminality did Hunter meet? And what is the average level of criminality of other people who are currently in federal custody? What's the level of criminality of their behavior? Not the charges, the behavior. Where do we think we fall on this? I would bet that Hunter is more criminally behaviorist than, 80% of the people in federal custody, just shooting from the hip, just based on what I've seen. Definitely more than 3 strikes that his daddy implemented, but the point is bigger than that. At a Senate hearing, this is what the New York Times tells us. Conflicts about what the DOJ did. There was a question, did David Weiss keep on under Mr. Garland to continue overseeing this inquiry? Had Mr. Weiss ever been asked to be made special counsel? Was the investigation ever insulated from political considerations? A lot of questions. Gary Shapley came out and told us about it, but we got to fast forward all the way down. It remains unclear about how much the difference of accounts reflect possible factors, like just simple miscommunication. The lines were crossed, man. They just had feds in the tubes. There were just miscommunications, clashing judgments, differences of opinions. Republicans are trying to show nefariousness, but it could be just explained away. And we fast forward. All we want to know is if Merrick Garland lied to us, saying that Shapley had authority when Shapley didn't have authority. That's all. Well, the New York Times, as we keep scrolling, we're just going to keep scrolling here. And here we go. We're about just over halfway down the article. Key point. Remember, the question is, did David Weiss, the lead investigator, the lead U.S. attorney prosecuting Hunter, have authority to bring charges elsewhere? We know that he made a request to D.C. and Matthew Graves declined that out of D.C. A similar request was made to California, another possible charging location, which included L.A. That was also rejected. Mr. Shapley testified about that. And a second IRS official, Mr. X, who has not identified himself yet, also told Republicans the same story. But look at this. That episode, the California episode, check this, was confirmed independently to the New York Times by a person with knowledge knowledge of the situation. Oh man. So the New York Times independently corroborated this. They say Mr. Weiss had authority to pursue leads elsewhere, but the practices dictated that he secure approval of cooperation of U.S. attorneys in those areas before charges. And they declined. They wouldn't let him do it. So turns out everywhere David Weiss turned, there was no possibility for him to actually move the ball forward. Everywhere there were just different dead ends. Byron Donalds notices this. He says there needs to be some more accountability for Merrick Garland and the DOJ.
He's had plenty of opportunities to say that this is not true and provide information to the contrary. He has not done that. You couple that with the fact that he is already under oath saying that he has no ties to these investigations. He said that in the House. He said that in the Senate. So Merrick Garland, he's got a lot of explaining to do, because now we have corroboration with other people in the room who have said that David Weiss did not have the ability to bring charges in other districts. And I think the most damning of all is that he wanted the ability to become a special counsel, and Merrick Garland, who is the only person who can tell him no, told him no. So who's telling the truth here? I believe that it is not Merrick Garland. And I think what this does, this lays in the missing gaps in the investigations that we have in the Oversight Committee, where we are tracking down these money trails and tracking down these web of LLCs that the Bidens have been using to funnel all their money through. Now we understand why the Hunter Biden investigation took forever, because in my view, you have elements of the Department of Justice who have been slow walking and stonewalling this investigation.
And lying to us, telling us that these U.S. attorneys had total power and authority to do justice, when in reality, they didn't. The Biden DOJ was covering this up. They have been covering it up from the beginning. They've been playing this stupid game with us, telling us that it's a Trump-appointed attorney that makes the whole thing legitimate. Even though the DOJ is investigating the president's son, their boss's son. The cover-up started well before 2023. In the run-up to the 2020 election, they needed this to stop Trump. They couldn't have their candidate with egg on his face because of his son and his family's criminality. So they covered it up, and they had to continue to cover it up lest they be found to be undermining real American democracy.